and getting into Micaiah Bryant and what specifically happened in her situation. I saw the clip, and I don't like looking at that stuff as much as anybody else, but I knew that if I was gonna talk about it, then personally I want to talk about it from a knowing standpoint. You know what I'm saying? And I want to understand what's going on. I want to understand what happened, and I want to understand what people's arguments are against it. And my thoughts on the matter is that after seeing the video, there's no way that cop really had enough time to even see what she had in her hand. All right, it was a very small knife, like a little butter knife or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And it happened so fast. When if for those of y'all who've seen the video, literally, it happens in less than 10 seconds, less than 5 seconds. When the cop rolls up, there's already a fight going on. Okay, Micaiah Bryant was being jumped by older women. Not she's a teenager. She's being jumped by multiple people who are over 10 years older than her, who had already been bullying her online, and they're at her house, and her folks are the ones who call the police. Okay, and she's already being jumped on. She's defending herself already. All right, and within 5 seconds, of the cop being there, she's killed. Okay, and that's just unacceptable. That's not a heroic act. That's not serving. That's not protecting. That's none of that. That's the opposite. That's taking life. And we'll get into the arguments a little bit later. All right. But to me, if an officer in that situation cannot do more to de-escalate the situation before somebody is killed, then they shouldn't be an officer. And it's that simple. As a police officer, you agree to put your life on the line to protect and serve the community that you're supposed to be policing. It means that their lives come first. Okay? And as a police officer, that's the oath that you take. And you're going to be in high stress situations, and it's going to be difficult for you. All right? But that's your job, and that's what you should be there for. You know what I'm saying? And if it ain't that, it ain't right. And I don't care what nobody say about it. There's no reason that she needed to get her life taken. That cop didn't think about de-escalation. He only thought about shooting. He didn't talk to anybody when he got there. He didn't observe what was going on. He didn't even really respond to what was going on. When he came up, he was already prepared to shoot. His hand was already on his gun when he came up. He didn't think about anything besides shooting that day. All right? And that does not make a good cop. That is not a hero. Bottom line. And it shouldn't have happened. And there's no justification for that.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
The thing that gets me is, I might be jumping ahead a little bit here, but the way that we interact with these realities is, when it's convenient, we want to zoom in. What's this particular story? What happened there? But what about this? But who is she? But let's talk about her as a whole person. Oh, when there's something to be found, this is not just with her, this is with a lot of people. It's like, well, but what about them as a person? And the line of that conversation and questioning is usually to justify them being murdered. The reasoning and line of questioning is usually to justify someone being murdered.
Mm-hmm.
We can do that and apply that to this child. We can apply that to the person who has a uniform, who most of the time we don't even actually know their name. This is some 2020 shit. Let's not act like this is regular, that we know who the person is that pulled the trigger, that we even know specifically who the officer is and what their name is. That's new. Mm-hmm. Somebody being tried and found guilty is new. And I know that that's good that that's happening. But we know the truth. Mm-hmm. We know the real. Mm-hmm. If me and you are together and we're both responsible for what's going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting here watching you smother somebody to death. I'm getting charged.
That's true. That's true.
I'm not gonna just fade into the background like Homer Simpson in the fucking bush.
Mm-hmm.
No. So I'm just planting that seed because this literally just happened. This is the first time I've seen this trial, a police officer being on trial for murder. And it was more than just that person there.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true.
And here we are, want to zoom in on the details of her story as if this is an isolated event.
Mm-hmm. And it's
when
not.
It happened on the heels of something historical.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not the murder of African heritage human beings in America, because that is the norm. But the actual acknowledgement and persecution on a legal level of that.
Mm-hmm.
While this happens,
mm-hmm.
and this is the reaction and response of people to try to justify why she deserved to be murdered.
Mm-hmm.
Or even be like, don't pull the C16 card. She's a teenager card. I'm like, what are you talking about?
She's a teenager. Imagine if that was your daughter getting jumped outside of her own house.
And that's the problem, though. People are like disconnected from their own humanity in the way that they're discussing this. This is not an isolated incident. Mm-hmm. This is another example in a long line of names, in a long line of movements, in a long line of violence, state-sanctioned violence, governmental violence, imperial violence.
Mm-hmm. And, I think that there have been police before that have been tried for murder or at least second-degree murder. But more often than not, they get acquitted. And this is the first time that they've actually been charged.
Found guilty.
But cops murdering black people has been a thing since the time of slavery.
Since the foundation of this country.
It's what
it's founded on.
But also since the foundation of the police force, which is really based on the foundation of slave catchers.